to another edition of the Mexican Soccer Show. Oh, I don't like that view. No, I don't like that view either. Where's everybody? There we go. How's it going? How's it going, Cesar? How's it going, Owen? And welcome, our first and always on with us, Joanna Avalos. How's it going? Hello. How you guys doing? Cesar?
Doing
From
well.
vacation, coming back.
Yeah, definitely back. I am now in a very chaotic office. Luckily, I was able to push everything aside from the wedding, from the vacation, from the mini moon. I was able to have my usual setup once again because it definitely looks like a hoarders episode over here in this office. But glad to be back. Glad to be
San Diego
yeah.
brings you to a house full of Mexican memorabilia.
Yeah, like that, and like as opposed to like trash, it's just like random wedding stuff. There's like flowers, and there's like I don't know, man. It's ridiculous. But glad to be back. Glad to be chatting Mexican soccer. Glad to be here with y'all again.
And going to the East Coast, Owen, Diana with us, who has got a new place, and if we were joking that a pizza is going to come up in like 20 minutes, so hopefully he ordered it.
And no, I haven't. I could order it mid-show, but as of now, I haven't ordered anything. But yeah, great to be here. Great to see you guys as always.
All right. Well, let's saying hi to everybody. If you're with us right now on the chat, say hello. Like we said, Joanna said hello, and whatever your comments are, and you can follow along if you're on YouTube or if you are there on Twitter. So yeah, all right. I mean, let's jump in. Let's talk Mexican Soccer Show. And the very first news, we already had a little rundown going, but in the middle of the day, we saw FIFA sanctions one more time because you know how stupid people are with the P chant that happened in the two games, I think it was during the qualifiers game, and of course now Mexico versus Panama that's coming up next year, the first home games that we have, and Mexico Costa Rica will now be in closed doors again. I think there's also some kind of obviously monetary sanction, but el cuento de nunca acabar. Mexico continues to have the stupid chant regardless of when it is, and we get penalized for it. Cesar,
yeah.
Like, if we can think about a theme in the Mexican Soccer Show for the last 5 years, is somehow again the P chant. It's never over.
Yeah, that's what's really disappointing because it really wasn't surprising when we saw the reports. Because I feel like at this point in the conversation, we're not even having the conversation like, oh, is it good? Is it bad? It's like now it's like we've already had this conversation several times. Yeah. It's bad. It's homophobic. We've said that so many times that it's weird to be at this point where it's just it's not even a debate about anymore. It's just frustrating. It's just really frustrating. And yeah, like you said, earlier today, FIFA, they released their disciplinary overview for the latest round of World Cup qualifiers, and obviously it's not just Mexico, because I know a lot of people be like, oh, why are they always like going up against Mexico? No. It's always, the thing is, like, if you look at that report, they're about 40, 50, I forget the exact number, but there is a significant amount of teams there that have been giving various fines, been given warnings, and also some stadium bans. A lot of those also include some CONCACAF teams. We've seen Honduras, Panama, El Salvador, and Canada also getting some sort of fines or some sort of like limited capacity for some of their upcoming games. But for Mexico, I think the exact wording was discriminatory behavior by supporters. They referenced the games against Canada and Honduras and the Azteca last month. And I mean, we watched those games. I know, I wasn't there in person, but definitely the game against Canada. I mean, I could hear it while watching the TV. We saw the pause in the match. We saw the very last at the very end of the game too. That one was incredibly loud, and yeah, it's disappointing. It's not surprising, and yeah, along with the next two home games being without spectators, they're also going to be fined 100,000 Swiss francs. That's about $110,000. For the federation.
And again, I know when people are, what are they supposed to do? What can Mexico and the national team do, or what can people do? And I know there's not like the perfect answer. Mexico, the FMF has tried to do, putting Grita Mexico in the leagues. I know that they've contacted some of us fans and ideas. The PBA, for example, the supporters group here in the United States. But it feels like whatever they do, it doesn't help, especially when the team is doing bad. When they're playing, and you saw those matches, people were frustrated, or something happens, or the ref does something. When we saw it in the Nations League and they did it. And honestly, like at this point, I feel, and even though it's going to hurt us, and I don't want this to happen, but the minute it happens, just end the game and Mexico loses. Like Mexico loses at that point. And until people can get, reprimanded for their actions, because it's not like you're going to have security guards all the way up. And as soon as somebody says it, then, you're out, because that's impossible. But minute 25 and the ref hears it, it's already been warning from other games. It's like yellow cards, right? It's like you already know the yellow card from the other game. If it happens, end the game, -3 points. All the fans get out. And I guarantee those fans are going to get upset because they drove into the Azteca, or they drove for wherever part in the United States, wherever Friendlies, especially Friendlies. Like, why not do it at Friendlies, right? If it happens, because it's not like it means anything, right? And I was at the Ecuador game. I didn't hear it. We starting to see some places where you start hearing, like Dallas, Denver, some, and I could say maybe highly populated with more fans in the city, or the type of fans. But you started in Mexico City. Owen, to you, the reaction of it, and no fans in the Azteca. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but it's definitely it is a punishment for those that go and enjoy the game, especially a qualifier.
Right. I think it's a punishment, but I think the big takeaway is that I don't think it's going to be enough to move the needle to get the chant eradicated. I think there's going to ultimately need to be something more drastic. And I think we'll have to see what happens in terms of it even ending up being 2 games behind closed doors. I think the fine will stay. But so in August, when they came out with the 2-game ban for the chants that were heard in the pre-Olympic tournament, the FMF appealed that, and they're going to appeal this as well. They appealed the August sanction, and they managed to reduce it to 1 game. And they're going to appeal it again, and we'll have to see. And I mean, they've said some of the things like you were mentioning, Lisa, that they've done more than any other federation to try to reduce this discriminatory conduct. For example, that's one of the things they're going to be using in the appeal. I mean, whether or not you think they have legs to stand on, I think one thing that really stands out for me is that a lot of the discourse we've heard throughout the summer during the Gold Cup, when this was an issue, during the pre-Olympic tournament, and then during the qualifiers, was that when Mexico aren't playing well, when the fans are feeling exasperated or frustrated, like you touched on, Wiso, that's when the chant happens. So then it's really disappointing and exasperating as someone who wants to see it eradicated when it's happening against a Honduras team that were never really in that match. Certainly after the Cordova goal goes in to put Mexico up 1-0 in the 18th minute, I think that result is more or less assured. Honduras only have 1 shot on goal the entire game. It was a harmless effort in the 2nd minute. Honduras were never really in that match. They have a man sent off early in the second half. So to have the chant appearing in a match that was a foregone conclusion for the majority of it, I think is really disappointing. It leaves you, I'm sure, as the federation of where do we turn to next, especially after all these other initiatives. Now, the silver lining, and this is not a silver lining in the sense of, okay, it could be eradicated sometime soon, but you're not playing at home now with fans for a long time, because your next 3 qualifying matches are all on the road. Yep. And then these matches against Costa Rica and against Panama are not until late January and then early February. So then you'd be looking at, then I believe March would be the next window where you could then finally see fans back at a Mexico match. So there's a lot of water is going to pass under the bridge before then. We'll see what happens at that point. But I don't think ultimately this is enough to move the needle, because as well, I don't think these are necessarily going to be really do or die qualifying matches against Costa Rica or Panama either. Mexico are already 2/3 of the way to that 21-point mark that would almost surely wrap up one of the top 3 spots, get them an automatic ticket to Qatar. I think these next 2 matches away will be difficult against the United States and Canada. But I think certainly if they do well there, they've got qualification completely wrapped up potentially by the time they go and face Costa Rica and then face Panama. So they're not matches where like, oh, I really wish we had our fans here necessarily. So
yeah, lucky
enough, unfortunately,
that the next 2 home games are a Costa Rica and are a Panama, because the next home game after that is the U.S.
And we definitely won't hear the chant then, right? No, I'm really worried about that. Like about
if
that
there's
game
anywhere where we need. where we need fans, wherever, they have it. I think they should go, now back to your point, Cesar, bring in the chant, bring in the people in there. I think we argued, right? There should be games out of the Azteca and, see if they have that. And yeah, I come to your side and said, you're right, because the Azteca's not working, right? And then, it's costing us points. And then, have it somewhere in Monterrey, for example, in the new stadium with the fans that deserve it, that are going to, 50,000 fans are going to women's game, 50,000, it's that fandom is there. Have it there. We'll see that.
Yeah.
But
Quickly, in terms of the chant, though, I mean, it was first heard that this whole, certainly the most recent kind of iteration of this whole controversy that's gone on for months now. The first instance of it being heard was at the Estadio Jalisco. So the idea there, I don't think you can be under any, you can't assume that, okay, just by leaving the Azteca as it relates to this chant, that it's suddenly going to disappear.
It's not, but there is, and I got to tread lightly this water, but there is certain type of fan that is used to going to games and that goes, they're going to have another one. I can do whatever the hell I want. And let me give you that example. I talk to fans in the United States and with PVA, with the guys that I know, and they know what cities where the chant might be heard. And they told me straight out, this is the captain, one of the captains that said, you won't hear it in Atlanta, Nashville, or Charlotte. You just will not hear it. It's a more family atmosphere. These guys are driving from New York. They're driving 8 hours from Virginia. They're driving all these places because they never get to see the Mexico play. And it's a family out, bringing their kids. Sure, there's drinking and there's tailgating, but they assured me that it's a little different in the South when Mexico games play. And you're right. Even though it was 0-0 in Atlanta, you didn't hear it. Even though I think it was against Honduras, another place, it was a boring game or whatever, you still didn't hear it. You heard it in Dallas, right? You heard it in Denver. You heard it in LA. And I'm not saying that what's the demographic like, but if it's a casual fans that want to be there for quote unquote this madre and drinking, whatever, F this and F that, people kind of go in there. And I can see sometimes that Mexico City fan that just goes and he knows he's going to get another game and is just there. It's going to say it. Why not take it somewhere else? But again, Owen, to your point,
I don't think we could really I don't think we could really generalize and be like, oh, that city, this, it's a problem within the Mexican soccer community. I think we could just say in general that I think we could just say, I don't think it would be like, oh, we know in Atlanta and maybe no. I think in general,
it's the type of fan that wants to say it though. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. I don't want to generalize all fans, but is the fan that doesn't care, doesn't matter, or doesn't know, or is there it's not the casual fan or the fan that knows that he can take him out of the Azteca, the games. Like I've now talked to so many people, and the people that don't care are not people that are really big fans of the team that are going there and diehards that make sure they want to make it to the World Cup. Like,
yeah, I think what worries me though is that like, I think for me the issue is long term. I think of the short term. Let's say Mexico comes back to that U.S. game. Let's say the chant reappears. Let's say they lose those 3 points, and that would be the most significant step towards that. Even if Mexico loses those 3 points, in theory they could still qualify for the World Cup, and then the fans would see that and be like, oh, cool, we still said the chant and it's okay, Mexico's still in the World Cup, that's fine. For me, it's obvious, other than the obvious issues of it being a homophobic thing that's being said game in game out. I think for me the long-term issue is, what does that mean for future competitions? What does that mean for future World Cup qualifiers, maybe even the 2026 World Cup? I don't know. That's what worries me more. I think I think what's going to happen is that even if Mexico, let's say, they get those 3 points deducted in that game against the US, there's still a potential that they'll still qualify.
Fans,
and like,
you tell fans, hey, either you don't say it or you're not going to go to World Cup. Well, then I don't care. I don't care if they go to World Cup. That's fine. It's like there's nothing you can tell these fans. They're going to say whatever they want to say until they drive to a game and they get ejected out. And $130 they spent in the US or however many pesos they stay, in Mexico, and they're like, I just wasted 3 hours for me to yell. That might teach them something, right?
Yeah.
So,
but at the very least, though, like Owen was saying, I'm hoping that the FFF does have a significant amount of time between now and that next game on the 24th, I think, next year against the US, unless if the appeal ends up only having one game suspension. I think that gives them enough time to kind of try to figure something out, to try to, I don't know, just take even more significant steps. And I don't know, even the Grita Mexico thing, that's, I know, is it me or is that still feels a little weird? It's like you're still saying yell. No, I felt kind of a little misguided
Well,
there.
it's hard because if you start doing the whatever, everyone's like, oh, we're doing it again? Cool.
Yeah.
And they're gonna say it. So I've always kind of been against that. I get what they're trying to do. It would be cool after every goal kick, we do yell Mexico. I think it would be awesome. But honestly, it's almost gonna be like a generational change. I think less people are saying it. It is sort of working because it used to be said in every single game. Cesar, I mean, that before 2018, it was said in every single game, right?
Yeah, 100%.
World Cup, it was said the very first game for a little bit, and then they didn't say it at all after the World Cup. So it's you got to try stuff. I know maybe you said it's not a different city, go to another city. Fan IDs, for example, the World Cup have cameras. There's a lot that you can say, and I'll even flip this up. We've heard it. It's not even homophobic. Shake my head. It is. It is. It can be. You can say many different things. At the bottom of the word, it is. And you can excuse it as much as you want. But when someone asks you, hey, eres peach, the P word, you're going to first think of that slur. So we're way past that.
And for those who have that point of view, I highly recommend. Just look it up. Janelle Farias wrote a really important piece. Just look up, P word chant, Janelle Farias, and I'm sure you'll be able to find it. But she has a fantastic perspective on this as someone who is an LGBT player, and she makes a great point, and I use it all the time. Saying that, like, you say it, and like someone could be like, because fans be like, oh, that's not what I mean when I'm saying that. But you don't know if the fan next to you is having a difficult time with their own identity. And when you're saying that, you're like, no, I'm saying it to the goalkeeper, but it's not what I'd be like. You could be hurting, the fan next to you who might be struggling with their identity, especially in our very machismo kind of culture. Like it must be really, really difficult for people within that community. It's like, I would understand. It's something that a lot of us clearly don't understand. So I think just, I don't know. We're trying to find the piece. I don't know if we can share it somehow, but yeah, I highly recommend finding that piece by Janelle Farias. Yeah,
share from the Mexico Talk Show. Giovanna's saying, I think losing points or losing the World Cup doesn't matter. That hurts the team, not the fans misbehaving. I think hurt their wallets, stop the game, and kick the fans out, and then restart or abandon. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's interesting.
Consequences.
It's interesting on that point that we've never actually seen these sanctions have come in now multiple times, and we've never actually seen step 3 of the protocol installed. The only time that I've seen that was in the CONCACAF Championship with Cruz in Monterrey, when the players actually left the field. And I think, again, without actually being in the stadium for any of these matches, but just being able to hear instances of the chant through the TV, I think there have definitely been games where you could have installed step 3 of the process. And I think
100%.
It speaks to this idea as well, where I think, okay, when could a bigger sanction come? I'm not sure when it might ever come, because in the case of FIFA, for example, Mexico brings more fans and more money for FIFA at a World Cup than basically any other nation, right? And so it's like, are you, as FIFA, if you care about the money, I'm not, it's a slippery slope, but I think, FIFA would want to lose that, right? It would need to be something that would really, really damage the reputation of FIFA.
Well,
and this has now been going on for years, right? And FIFA's been able to turn more or less a blind eye to it, and nothing has really happened. No one's
a major sponsor comes in, Budweiser, a major sponsor comes in and says, Mexico keeps doing
it. That's what it might take, because I don't see FIFA. I don't see FIFA, if this just continues as it has, and it's step 2, and it's never really looking like it's never a black eye for FIFA or CONCACAF. Like, there are never a match is never abandoned, right? A World Cup qualifier isn't abandoned. As long as something like that doesn't happen, where it makes like international news, for example, I don't see FIFA or like you're saying, so a major sponsor, I don't see FIFA pushing the boat out and saying, okay, we're docking points. we're really risking your World Cup qualification, or we're just kicking you out of the World Cup entirely.
Yeah, and look, another argument, and Z, thanks for bringing all this up. Like, FIFA has slaves for the upcoming World Cup. Like, we can't do these whataboutism that's like, well,
exactly.
Russia or Qatar, it doesn't matter. Like, just because there's another corrupt place or they're doing something wrong, it doesn't mean like, well, we can do it too. And I get it. Why is FIFA policing everything? Well, it is what it is. It's still wrong. So
yeah,
I don't.
I think it's fair to recognize, like, yes,
that.
what FIFA is doing is like where they're hosting next World Cup and some of their ethics. Yes, we can look at that and be like, that is messed up. But that doesn't mean that well, what's happening in the stands in the Mexico game, that doesn't mean that that's therefore not messed up. That's also messed up. They're both messed up. We're allowed to say that just because FIFA is making some controversial decisions doesn't mean that therefore, why are they like getting Mexico trouble? I was like, well, that's still messed up too. Like what's happening in stands for in Mexico games is messed up as well. And I think what about it never makes sense. Yeah.
FIFA doesn't do much about Argentina violence, Croatia, Serbia violence when FIFA actually thrown down the head. They have. They really. It's not. I don't think FIFA has it out for Mexico. Like, they don't. Just like Owen is saying, it's not. They're. I don't. And
even if it is just Mexico, that doesn't mean that therefore they have something like, no, what's happening in stands is wrong. So it's I don't understand. Yeah,
that the whole fans are saying a slur, like, and there are violence and I think it was a Croatia or the Serbia game. Like, I think Polish fans got taken out. I think it happened in Greece también. Like, there has been a lot of sanctions. There's a lot of money. It not just doesn't happen in Mexico. Just like Cesar said, this isn't a case against Mexico. It's just that there isn't another country out there that all the fans are saying this at the same time, and it's so evident on TV, right? So evident, everywhere, and it's just frustrating.
Yeah. And once again, it isn't just Mexico. If you look at that disciplinary overview thing, I put out a tweet earlier today with a link to it. It's about 40 to 50 teams. It's not just Mexico. It's about 40 to 50 teams that are given fines, they're given warnings, they're given stadium bans. Like, and for those, and I think another argument that people were making was just like, well, why are teams getting warnings and then Mexico is getting stadium bans? It's like, well, because Mexico, they've been given warnings in the past. They've already surpassed that stage. Yeah, exactly.
2014 was the world when it was finally there, and but
yeah,
we'll see what happens. And just, again, I don't think anything's going to change until fans are somehow affected. And I think about this. I don't know. Oh, and next World Cup is going to be in Mexico, US, and Canada, right? Are we going to have World Cup qualifiers? We're going to be in the World Cup.
The host nation.
Yeah, right? There's no need for that. Yeah,
could be the last World Cup qualifiers, because after 2026. In 2030, it's going to a 48. There's not going to be that much. Everyone's going to go to the World Cup of the main 32 teams. Like, this Mexico US coming up could be the last time it could really mean something. In World Cup qualifiers, that was intense games that you can't lose.
Well, hopefully that one against El Salvador doesn't have to. If that one has to be a must win, then we're in trouble right there. But yes, hopefully that's the Mexico US game is what pushes Mexico over the line. But that's a good point. Just something that I haven't thought about. But then again, we're
not gonna have these games anymore.
No.
Yes, true. On the comments, the host cities, World Cup and country where they're anti-gay. It's true. There's so many things that are wrong with FIFA. But that doesn't necessarily mean that we can't change.
That makes it that somehow this is okay. That somehow like the chant's okay. That doesn't make the chant okay. And it's a very poor argument.
Have you guys touched on the Buy Now World Cup talk? We will. I think we'll have after these few games. I'm sure we'll talk about the World Cup. I have a few interesting takes on the World Cup cycle being every 2 years. We always want this great competition. Why not have it at the World Cup anyway? We'll talk about that. All right, let's talk about the game last week, Ecuador, 3-2, a very exciting game right off the bat. Mexico was down 1-0. I was at the game. I actually got a chance to go and spend some time with a couple of fans, refugees that we invited through the game through a cool sponsor like Procter & Gamble that gave us a suite, and we gave it out to these great refugee kids, and I got a chance to spend with them. And one of the comments over here that said, it looks like these Moleros game. I haven't seen an atmosphere like that for a friendly in a game in a very, very long time. Not that I don't see it often, but to people, I'm like, people think this is like a Gold Cup final, the way that they were cheering and everyone was going crazy. If it was really good atmosphere, great goals. I think they were all almost golazos. Mexico didn't get the win, but it felt like a good game, especially for the young players, someone like Santi Jimenez, who I got a chance to be with after the game and ask him a few questions and talk to him. And he was ecstatic about the opportunity that he got. And it kind of made me realize, sure, we think they're moleros. They don't mean anything. But to these players, talking to every single one, I talked to 3 players after the game, they were ecstatic that they were able to give him the opportunity.
Yeah, and I think
that's the big. I think that's the big takeaway from the game. I think, a lot of times, the discourse is these are moleros, like they don't mean anything. And I think certainly from a competitive standpoint, it didn't mean that much. The result doesn't ultimately mean that much. But what could be important is that you debuted 6 players.
Yep.
The average age of that squad, if you take out if you include the goalkeepers, Cota and Orozco are both over 34. The average age of that squad is 23.6 years old, which is a full 5 years younger than the average age of the squads that have been called up in the World Cup qualifiers. If you take out the 2 goalkeepers, the average age drops to 22.3. Regardless, even with the 2 goalkeepers, it's the youngest squad that Martino has called during his tenure. So I think that's really positive. I wrote in my post-match reaction piece, so Rafa Marquez and Jared Borghetti debuted against Ecuador in 1997 in a friendly. So if you could get even one player who has half the career with Mexico that those 2 did from that game from the friendly that was just played against Ecuador, it will have been a huge success. And it looks like you've got at least someone in Santi Jimenez, for example, who I think was the standout player for Mexico on the day, on his debut, who looks like a really promising player who could eventually take the mantle that Raul Jimenez has now and be the starting center forward for Mexico for years to come.
Yeah, Santi was impressive. Also, Roberto Alvarado, Canelo Angulo looked pretty good. And like Owen was saying there, I think that gives it a big, big opportunity to these players. And I think it also gives an opportunity to experiment, not only with young players, but also changing up his tactics a little bit. For a moment, I was even thinking, is this kind of like a 4-4-2 setup a little bit with Angulo up top? It looked kind of interesting. I don't know. I think, honestly, like I think this is a good opportunity for him to try out some different options and also give players like Santi Jimenez, like Alvarado, an opportunity to showcase their talent ahead of this month's World Cup qualifiers. So I think for me, the result didn't really matter in the end. For me, it was the opportunity for some of these players to step up, and some of these players really did step up. And obviously, shout out to Osvaldo Rodriguez for that's got to be the best goal of the year for Mexico, right? Like I'm trying to think of a more impressive goal from the national team this year. That's got to be up there.
Maybe Tecatito against the U.S. in the final of the first minute. Went to the left, went around.
Yeah, that was a good one. That was a great. I still think this just because it was
this was better.
Rocket.
Sure.
The Chucky goal, the 3rd goal against Honduras for the interplay with Orbelin was also an Orbelin back heel.
Yeah,
but I think there might be some recency bias too. I think if we dug in, potentially there were ones earlier in the year.
Probably. Yes, this goal. North Carolina was good. I hope North Carolina treated you with. You're nice people. Yes, thanks. Again, I was like, okay, here's another friendly. It's normal, but completely different atmosphere. I'm telling you guys, it was such a great time. The only thing that I had some trouble is I got the booster at the tailgate at the
awesome.
I got my 3rd booster right with the vaccine. I was like, I'm good. The next day I was dead for 8 hours. I had to do some work where we're again with these great nonprofits that we're doing with and tour their facilities and working with these sponsors and we get able to give a check. You're going to see cool stories that are going to come out this week. But I was dead. Amy had to carry me, and man, it was cool. But I'm glad I was able to get my vaccine. So yes, they treated me really well. Someone said, question: do they count that in the FIFA rankings? They do. I believe they do.
They do.
Yeah, they do.
They do.
It's not nearly as many points. They don't have the same kind of weight as a World Cup qualifier or a Gold Cup match or a Nations League match.
But A, B, or C types of games, and you get more points when is a conference game a qualifier friendly. But yeah, they still definitely work. Staying in that top 8, top 10 is where we want to be, and so we can be set the group, the grupo in
Top
the
7.
world, top
Top
7, yeah.
7.
And
Yes. So luckily, hopefully, we didn't lose too many points.
Too many points
on that.
there. Too many
Yeah.
points. Definitely not.
yeah, which is I mean, this is the types of matches that you want to. I'm not saying you want to lose matches, but you're going to want to lose with young guys, I thought they played better than Ecuador, most of the times. I thought they were
Yeah.
good.
I mean, if you're looking at, I mean, and not to be like, oh, well, XG says this, so therefore that's what's true. But like, the
Yeah.
XG was higher for Mexico in that match. I think there was
Right.
like a two
Well-
point something, and I think Ecuador's was like a 0.6
Mhm.
something. Like, it wasn't exactly like the highest of quality of chances, especially what was it, the second goal, where it kind of looked like he chipped Orozco, but that was clearly just a poorly taken shot. It was just there was, and obviously with that back line, this isn't a back line that has played game in, game out. These guys are building chemistry together and probably haven't been playing together too long. So I'm not really that surprised, but I thought overall Mexico had the better chances in the game.
Right.
Yeah.
Ecuador's 3 goals came from their only 3 shots on goal.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Almost the
I
two
think
were
that-
identical. The first 2 were
That
identical.
tells you a lot. I think in terms of the defense, I think you're right, Cesar and Wiso. It's a lot of players who hadn't played together. That an untested back line in terms of having those automatisms and experience playing together that the best back lines have. I think the one concern before his belter was Osvaldo Rodriguez's part in the first goal as a really poor defensive header, just presenting the ball right to the Ecuador midfielder.
That was a beautiful assist from him, right?
Right. I mean, it was, it was a worry,
you
in isolation for whoever it was, right, for Mexico to make an error like that, but also because in his previous match against El Salvador, I think, although we all want to see Arteaga there, he's sanctioned. He's not probably coming back necessarily anytime soon into the national team fold. So Rodriguez played well against El Salvador and kind of marked himself out as a reliable alternative to Gallardo. So you were hoping that he'd really be able to build on that in this match. And then he starts off the match pretty early on with that error. I think he recovers well with that great goal. I think that's good. It shows a little bit of temperament on his part, but nonetheless, you would have liked to see an unblemished copybook defensively on his part in that match.
And at the very least, over the FIFA rankings, there's a site I use every now and then that kind of like crunches the numbers. According to them, Mexico only lost 3.6 points, so that would have them still hold on to their number 9 spot in the rankings.
Yeah, we should be good.
Actually,
like I said, talk to Santi Jimenez and talk to Osvaldo. One of the questions that we asked Osvaldo and Santi were like, if he ever looked up to any players, and everyone's saying, this player. Santi said his dad. That was a little good moment.
That's pretty cool.
He's like, yeah, I looked up to my dad. I'm like, okay, that makes sense.
That's really cool. What is he even up to? Is he still was he managing Cancun in the Expansión?
Yeah.
And then he went to
more.
Argentina, right? In the 2nd division or something like that to coach somewhere over there. I forget. Yeah.
All I know is that Santi is full on Mexico. Obviously he was born in Argentina but he it's great. I think if there's anybody that we're looking for, and I'm glad he's getting those minutes. And again, maybe this is, especially these non-friendly, when people go, oh, you're not bringing the players. These are a perfect example to bring those type of players, and it's exciting to see some of those players, that are gonna in 10 years, hopefully, or 5 years, and we're looking at them. A game was announced today: Mexico versus Chile on December 8th in Austin. Right, I kind of gave you a preview like 2 weeks ago, and I told you be on the lookout. And now, guys, like normally I would break story, be like, hey, by the way, I know where they're at. Now I can't, because now I get information from sponsors, and they know if I tweet it out, or they know people close to me tweet it out. So, but expect a lot of games next year, more than the normal, especially in the U.S. So just kind of look at that, and lots of different cities, and maybe I'm excited for the game in December because. Bring Santi out again. Bring Osvaldo. Bring these guys. Try them out. There's some positions on the national team that we don't look like we have a full staff in. Like Arteaga's not there. Could Osvaldo be there? Especially in our defense. I think up front we're pretty good. But another game that was mentioned, and Mexico's a Chile, and Chile. I mean, it's not the old Chile, right? But at the same time, people are always like, oh, it's because we're playing all these countries. Well, Ecuador beat us. Like, I'd rather play another Ecuador. You know.
Yeah,
Or,
that's the thing
or,
too, just because there's a lot of fans who justify be like, oh, like we aren't the Copa America anymore. Like it would be great to be playing the Copa America. It's like, well, the next best thing we could probably do is have friendlies against some of these South American sides, and I think
we're gonna
it's
see a
really,
lot of
really,
it.
yeah,
A
and I think
lot of
that's good.
South American sides we're going to play in friendlies because of the schedule. Everybody else is pretty much. It was going to be that, and I'll tell you this: it was either going to be Chile or Iceland.
Yeah, wasn't there,
Iceland again.
It
or
was going
wasn't
to be Iceland. Believe me.
the Ecuador game was supposed to be like Czech Republic or something like that, right? But this
Yes,
was
it
supposed to be
was.
like a
It was.
year or two ago. Yeah.
And then obviously that Austin that was on the map because of the new stadium, so they're going to go. So how do you hang those scarves? I think I have more up there.
Super glue.
Thumbtacks, dude. Just thumbtacks. Just get some thumbtacks and
Thumbtacking expert.
Yes. I have so many now. I first when I started, I'm like, I don't want to be that guy that puts their scarves, but then you kind of get them everywhere. Every time you go cover like a tournament, they give you one. I have the Nations League one, by the way, which is the dream come true is their slogan, which is kind of.
I like this one with the artwork. This guy.
Dude, those are nice. Yeah.
Do we know who designed?
Guys?
Do we know who actually? So you probably know who designed that. Like,
yeah. So
it's
for every year, some has different aesthetics. This year they really came. I really like this. I might steal it for the next nation. I don't know. We're rebranding, so we'll see.
Someone's put Mix Nation.
It's all like, hey, check it out. Yeah. How will Mexico prepare for the November weather? Really quick, yeah. So the next few games, and we're gonna have a great preview next week. Inviting Grant Wall and inviting Martin del Palacio next week. It's gonna be an early Mexican soccer show. And so it should be a lot of fun. Cesar is excited. We're ready to go. We'll get some cool videos and we'll preview it. But really quick, Vit's already saying, how will Mexico prepare for the November weather in Edmonton? We're going to do some research and figure out how they're going to prepare because it's going to be cold.
Well, Well, I think so. It's only 4 days after they play in Cincinnati, and I know so. For that match, they'll be training for a week in Indianapolis.
Yeah.
So basically, I mean, most of the preparation for Edmonton will be done there in Indianapolis. They'll only have a couple of days. I'm not sure what they're doing after the match in Cincinnati, but they'll be somewhat acclimatized. So they'll have played a match in Cincinnati, which is quite cold as well, just a few days earlier.
Yeah, and luckily it's just 2 games during that window, so it makes things a lot easier for prep. And actually, like, it's kind of perfect timing. I mean, I'm not going to say weather-wise, but I think if you were to face these 2 teams away, it's maybe try to like squeeze them in one of those windows where it is just 2 games as opposed to 3. So I don't know. I think it's going to be a good opportunity for them. Obviously, the weather though. I mean, I'm looking at Edmonton weather right now. It is 32 degrees right now in Edmonton, and they're gonna have a low of 18 degrees tonight. So might be a little chilly.
Yeah, it's gonna be cold. I mean, it's not gonna be like January, right? I mean, but like negative or whatever, or that U.S. and Costa Rica game in Denver, if you remember a while back.
Hey, but maybe kind of like Canada, like trying to go in a cold climate, like maybe it'll be kind of like how Mexico, so at the Azteca, it's like, oh, it's this high elevation, blah blah. It's like, well, I don't know. A lot of these players, they play in Europe. Maybe it's not the best idea to play at a high elevation at the Azteca. Could we maybe make the same argument with some of these Canadian players who play abroad?
Fewer.
But maybe they're used to it though, like all their lives.
It's a stretch. I'm really pulling this out of nowhere. It's honestly a stretch. I'm not gonna like stick by this.
No, I think you have to look on a case by case basis. But so of the last Mexico squad, 19 of the 28 play in Mexico. Those aren't necessarily all. I mean, they obviously all can't be starters, right? Right. A lot of them are more, secondary players, role players. But that's 19 of the 28 are based in Mexico. And then I think without knowing the exact numbers, a lot of the Canadian players are not based in Europe. A lot of them play in MLS. Now, that doesn't mean they're playing in cold weather places, all of them. So it doesn't necessarily mean they're immediately, they could be playing in Nashville, right, for example. They could be, you could be playing in Miami, right? You could be playing it for one of the Texas teams. So I think there's a certain grain of truth where it's going to be working. It doesn't just completely favor Canada. Not everyone on that Canadian team is based in Toronto, but there are quite a few players who are based in Toronto, for example.
Yeah, honestly, I just
Cool.
I just thought was like maybe that's actually something that's entirely true, but yeah, I have no idea where. We'll see what the
Mexico. Remember when
yeah.
Mexico played Holanda? It was freezing and Mexico won. Like I don't remember like Mexican players like when it's cold being like, hey, but there are some players that are like it's pretty cold. Like it's really cold. So we'll see. Yeah, I mean we'll see in Cincinnati. It's gonna be there too. Somebody said I checked tickets were cheap, just airfare from Chicago. You're talking about Canada, Bill. Can U.S. tourists go into Canada? I thought there's still restrictions. So
I have no idea.
watch out. Watch out.
I have no idea. I don't know if we're the ones. I don't know if we're the ones to ask.
These guys are professionals. I have faith in them. Yeah, to a certain extent. I mean, Raul plays in the cold. He's played in the cold. Chucky Lozano. I know some players play in the cold too, but it can affect us just like they will, right?
And that cold has obviously not impacted Raul either. He's been doing all right.
Yeah. Speaking of Raul, we can talk about it right now. Raul, his second goal, right, with Wolves of the season after coming back from injury. Is it me? But I see Raul faster than ever.
Yeah, I saw someone after I sent out a tweet about the goal. Someone was saying like, did he get a little faster since coming back from his injury? I'm not entirely sure, but I mean, that was incredible. That run for the goal and like obviously that little chip at the end, which is obviously world class. But yeah, shout out to Raul, 50th goal overall for Wolves. That's now I think 2 goals and 2 assists in his last few games for Wolves. But I thought was kind of interesting was after the match, his manager. Bruno Lage says that what Raul does for us, he runs 90 minutes. He's the first guy to press. This is the most important thing he does for us. And I like that quote because like, I know the finish was obviously incredible, with the clever chip, but I mean, in that moment and through that quote, you can see that, Raul really is a very well-rounded striker. He really is capable of doing so much work on the field. And this is a really good sign ahead of these upcoming World Cup qualifiers because you want him to press like that. You want him to have that clever finish. You want him to be as aggressive and as physical he was in that game. So it's all excellent news for L3, and obviously, hopefully, Raul continues to score for Wolves going forward.
All three of us were watching the match, right? We're all seeing Raul and something, and Owen, to you, Raul coming back and almost defending at times, bringing the ball. And how many of those counters did you see Raul start the counter on the left side, passes it over, and he's already on the right side? When the coach said he's running 90 minutes, he literally is, because there was times where I'm like, wait, that's Raul starting the counter. That's Raul coming back on defense. That's Raul defending on set pieces. He almost had 2 goals in kind of on a counter, head the ball in, it hit the post. That could have been an amazing golazo. But it is officially, we can officially say, Owen, Raul is back.
For sure, right. I was gonna mention right. He has that header that hits the post. Potentially could have done better with that. Was in a really good position for that header, and then also has a brilliant assist chalked off for offsides as well. So beyond the really well taken goal, he could have potentially had more, certainly in terms of the stat sheet. But a player that offers so much more than just the goals, as the coach Bruno Lage mentioned as well. Not only his defensive work, but I mentioned a lot of times for Mexico, he's probably their best central creator. And I think a lot of that is true with Wolves as well, his ability to drop deep, start counters, also start play from central positions. The ability he has to hold the ball up and turn with it is really impressive. And also Wolves are in really good form right now. That's now 4 wins and 5. They had a slightly rocky start to the season under the new manager, Bruno Lage. And you have to give him a lot of credit for also completely changing the way Wolves are playing now. Under Nuno is a lot more defensive, a lot less of the ball. And now with the new coach, Bruno Lage, they've been keeping the ball a lot more. It's a much more forward-thinking team. I think that ultimately benefits a player like Raul, although he does serve well with his size and technique in terms of hold-up play, et cetera, to a team that plays maybe a little bit more direct, has a little bit less of the ball. But I think it's a good thing, and also a style that's a little bit more in keeping with what Mexico try to do as well in terms of keeping the ball. So I think that's also probably helpful for when he goes on international duty.
Yeah,
Nuno got fired, and I was like, man, you wasted Nuno leaving Wolves. That guy loved Raul.
Poor guy. He was like 7th choice or whatever for their. I forgot. Was he? Yeah, I think that was what some reports
Right.
are saying. But anyway,
And
I guess this isn't the
Wolves.
EPL soccer show.
Another point on Wolves as well, and Raul, is that they've been transformed by the South Korean forward Hwang Hee-chan
Yes.
coming in as well
Yeah.
from Leipzig.
Yeah.
He has 4 goals since he came in. A player who's nominally a center forward but plays a lot off the left. He's a real good foil for Raul as well, because it allows Raul to drop a little bit deeper. He then has a forward runner to hit right away who can move off from the left, usually into central positions. That's how we got his assist against Newcastle a couple of weeks ago. So a player who's proved really effective in that attack, and I think has made the whole team look better, certainly the whole attack look better, and Raul Jimenez would be included in that.
Agreed.
Like I said, it's going to be an interesting game. Is already next week, right? The games, it's the U.S. games on Friday.
Man, I
right?
can't believe it's already November, to be
I don't
honest.
think next week, because they're the 12th. They're the 12th and the 16th. So I think
Sorry,
they're at
yes.
the back end of the following week.
Got it. Yes.
Actually, it's next Friday. It's next
It's
Friday.
next week.
Oh, it's next
The
Friday.
Mexico US game is
Yeah,
next Friday.
misspoke. Back end of next week.
The week. Yeah, that's why I'm like, it's already there. Yeah.
I was right
Like
on the
it-
back end. I was right. on the back
Like I said, I can't believe it's already November, to be honest. Like it's kind of
It's
shocking.
not- it's
You guys
completely-
already start like Christmas music, because everybody did apparently. Like we're just skipping Thanksgiving and it's going into Christmas. Why not? Forget Thanksgiving. Z saying, I hope Raul and Chucky can start making plays together like before. Did we ever really see, like, everyone's wanting Tecatito, Chucky, and Raul, and maybe I think I'm gonna jump off that like train, and because I don't think Tecatito has been in form. I'm ready to give somebody else a try.
I think I would start Orbelin. I think I'd give Orbelin a start up there alongside the two. But I think
Would you
Tecatito
play him off
deserves.
the right, Cesar? That's the thing, because I think your two best attackers are Raul Jimenez and Chucky, right? You're going to play Raul as the number 9. And I think Chucky, although he plays a lot off the right at Napoli, his best position, or where you give him the best chance to be effective, is off the left.
Yeah.
And so then who are you playing on the right? You're not going to play Orbelin off the right. Alexis Vega is nominally a left-sided forward as well. And then so the choice becomes Tecatito really or Uriel Antuna. I'd rather have an out
I have Tecatito. You're right.
Also, because
I think
Antuna really is
I
no goals or assists this season in Liga MX. I think there were a lot of expectations for him in that friendly against Ecuador, the player with the most experience, the most caps in that side. I don't think he really did a lot, didn't really impose himself on the game. So I'd take an out of form Tecatito over an out of form.
I was thinking.
I don't think Chucky is like terrible at the right though.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a serious risk to put Chucky on the right, and I think that's kind of a halftime sub you can make as well, or a halftime switch. You can put him on the left hand side, and to be honest, you kind of see that every now and then with Mexico, where sometimes the wingers will switch. You see Tecatito and Chucky switch during the game, but I think just for the sake of giving Orbelin minutes and maybe more of a prominent role, I think I'd be tempted. I'm not gonna say that that's 100% what I do. I think I would be tempted to have Orbelin on the left, Chucky on the right. If it doesn't exactly work out, easy switch, move Chucky back to the left, have Tecatito on, just because I don't know. There's something a little off about Tecatito right now. I think he still deserves a start in one of the two World Cup qualifiers, but I don't know if I'd start him in both.
I think you definitely have to have him in Cincinnati though, because of what he's done against the United States.
You have.
I think you have to start him in that match. Then potentially, also, the next match is coming a couple days after. I mean, we'll also see. Hopefully, fingers crossed, no one's getting injured in the next couple, in the next week or so. But there are still matches that these players are going to be playing with their clubs before we even start thinking about what's going to happen in Cincinnati and what's going to happen in Edmonton. But I think everyone being healthy, Tecatito has to start that match.
One more week, right? One more week. But I would go. You against the U.S., you have to start Tecatito. I'm not saying we're done with him, but I'm not like, if these 3 guys are ready to go, we're 100%. Like Tecatito, sure. In fact, he's played really great against the U.S. before, and if you look at highlights, he's made some of those players, some great European talented players, look like little kids.
He's gonna be hoping that Serginho Dest gets to start. That's all I'm gonna say. He's
That's
definitely hoping
exactly.
for that.
That's right.
I think on that first goal,
if you're Berhalter, do not start Serginho Dest at left.
On that first goal in Denver, I think it was Juventus guy. He went right. He like told
Weston McKennie. I mean,
McKennie.
I thought man, he was fantastic in that game. I felt like I thought that was actually a really good game for Mexico despite the loss, just because I thought they created a lot of good chances, like a
Well,
number
I
of
think
really good
that
chances.
was a game. So it's an interesting one, Cesar. I know you like looking at XG. I was checking it a week or two ago because I had that same impression too when I was watching the match that Mexico.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at the match itself, so the United States had the better XG actually by a significant amount. But if you watch that game, Mexico, I think, were the better team more or less throughout. The United States 3 goals come from set pieces. The first 2 from corners, especially the second one. Lainez puts Mexico up in the 79th minute. You look at the second goal Mexico concede there. Chaco Rodriguez loses concentration, doesn't realize the player's coming behind him, shanks the ball out to concede the corner kick. And then Jesus Gallardo, after McKennie's header for the first goal was, hits the post, goes to range. So McKennie essentially is the one to watch out for there on the set pieces. Gallardo doesn't even jump with him at the back post. I mean, it's like you can't think of, okay, how are we going to concede this tying goal? You can't think of a worse way to concede it, essentially, than the way they conceded that second goal. And so you were 10 minutes away from winning that game.
Yeah.
So I think, Mexico could have certainly won that game. I don't think it's a game that they deserve to lose by any stretch of the imagination.
It happens, and then that's how kind of games go. So it's funny, XG, man. XG is crazy. Greg Balder loves XG, I was told. So coaches on it. A couple of questions here and there. Where's Cheech? Cheech is in the Galaxy, not going to be in the national team anymore.
I think he just scored against Seattle. If I saw.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
I think he literally just
I'm
scored.
saying, has Linus dropped out of the senior side? Really?
No. So
interesting.
The rumors during the Mexico-Ecuador game, I believe Gibran Araje was saying that Linus is going to be in the squad.
Yeah.
In November. I would expect that he's been injured.
Yeah.
He's been injured. He's just coming back. Working his way back to full
fitness. He still has not played with Real Betis, though. Really,
he has. He has played. He just hasn't played that much.
Yeah, I think
in significant minutes.
I think that's the case. Yeah, where he was coming back from injury, he's just trying to find his rhythm. I think it's at an awkward point. Some of the World Cup qualifiers, because you see someone like JJ Macias, who, according to reports, might also get the call up too, where you maybe don't want to give him a call up because you want him to kind of take time to kind of work themselves into their club sides, to work themselves with their club teams. And I don't think that these players are out of the picture. I just think it was kind of like an awkward moment at the beginning of the season. But now I would expect to see Macias. I'd expect to see potentially even I've seen some reports that maybe even Arteaga might even get a call up as well. And then maybe even Julian Araujo as well might even get the call up. So
for this US game?
Yeah, he might. I mean, he might get it. I think there's a decent opportunity if you believe some of the whispers, if you believe some of the rumors.
Bring him in for December. Back to what we were saying. I kind of would like to have Alexis Vega, Chucky, and Raul up front.
That looks great. I'm not a Tecatito defender to the last.
I thought that was the best before he got injured. Before I injured him.
It's just more if you're looking to maximize the talents of your 2 best attackers, then you'd have them in those positions. Then it leaves the opening on the right, and then the question is, who do you play there, right? But I think they looked effective for 20 minutes. Funes Mori was playing as the 9, but when Chucky was on the right and Alexis Vega was on the left for those first 20 minutes against El Salvador, I thought they looked great.
Yeah,
and Alexis Vega gets injured, unfortunately. A player who I think, for as well as he's played for Mexico in his recent appearances, has been really unlucky with injuries as well.
Yeah.
Giovanna saying she saw a rumor that they're going to call David Ochoa. Rumors.
I would not expect that.
Ooh, that would be I'd be
very surprised.
Save David Ochoa for this. If you want to give him a call, save him for December. Yeah, and especially
Julian, David. Let's bring everybody.
The thing with the goalkeeper is just how experienced the goal.
Pepe.
Calling Ochoa is one thing, but Acevedo, for example, has perhaps been deserving for a lot longer, or certainly been in the picture. Other young keepers as well, like Malagon, Jurado, and every single call up, it's been, some of this group of 4 keepers who are all over 34 years old and who seem to be there sometimes not even necessarily on merit for how they're doing in the league. For example, Jonathan Orozco, no team has conceded more this year than Tijuana.
Yeah, he's been pretty
But
poor.
he's been called up into all of these squads. He's starting in the Ecuador friendly. So I think when you look at that, considering you're a year out from Qatar, I think potentially for the friendly against Chile, you could see those players. You'd hope to.
You'd hope. I think it was really
if Acevedo isn't even getting called or someone like that, if David Ochoa isn't getting called for the Ecuador friendly, any hopes of them getting, I don't think you can have any real hope of them getting called up for the World Cup qualifiers.
Yeah, I think it was really telling that in the latest friendly, where I think you do have to applaud Tata for giving an opportunity to a young roster, a lot of young players, and then you look at the goalkeepers, and it's two guys in their mid-30s. So I think that says a lot about how he'll continue to stick with some of those older guys, and hopefully he will give some opportunities to some of the younger goalkeepers going forward. But it's looking like he's happy with some of those veterans.
But I mean, maybe this is a time where he's like, "Look, Ochoa's going to be there, right? I need to see my backup. I need to see the backup to the backup, which is not going to be Acevedo, which is not going to be Jurado, which is not going to be the Malagon. You know, these are the games you're going to bring them. They're there. They're going to come. I think you always take a young keeper to the World Cup, right? So it would be Ochoa.
Maybe the young keeper will be
Cota.
Yeah, that's the young keeper.
Who's the number two? Who's number two for you guys right now?
Talavera.
Yeah,
Talavera.
And then after that, Talavera, and then I think so. You're bringing three goalkeepers. I think it's going to be Orozco because of how he plays with his feet.
Exactly.
I think
but no, I mean usually it's two with a young person, right? So hopefully.
But if none of these young keepers getting called in at all, and we're roughly a year away.
Oh, they're gonna get called.
Unless something changes drastically and one of these young guys starts getting called in, you're not going to just cold call David Ochoa, having never actually put him into a squad even for Molero. Yeah. You're not going to then call him into the World Cup.
How old is Acevedo?
He's 25.
Yeah, he's in the mid-20s, yeah.
I mean, dude, Ochoa is going to be 40 before he's done, so. It is what it is. Osvaldo Sanchez. I mean,
I'm just keeping my fingers crossed. This could be Ochoa. This could be David Ochoa, and also Emi Ochoa from the Earthquakes. So we can have the three Ochoas.
Your dream scenario.
The three Ochoas at the next World Cup.
That would be. I hope that's what they're doing.
Three Ochoa.
Behind the scenes.
Ochoa tres. Anyway, we'll see. All right. Really quick, we're going over time. CCL. What do we talk about? By the way, what happens with the CCL winner? Where do they go? Is there
there's a Club World Cup?
Yeah,
there's a Club World Cup.
It's supposed to be in February, if I remember correctly.
February.
So Monterrey, I think, along with Real Madrid and then I think a couple of teams from other confederations are two of the only, I think, 4 clubs to have ever gone to now 5 Club World Cups.
Good for Vasco Aguirre winning. It's Funes Mori is going to be seen, internationally. I mean, I like
a player who struggled in finals as well. That's only, I think, his 3rd goal in 13 or 14 final matches, all scored against Club America. So he does well against America in finals. But I think the big takeaway is that Monterrey, it's been, the discourse around this season in Liga MX it's been a very mediocre season. Not a lot of quality. An America team that there are a lot of questions about, certainly in terms of style of player running away with first place. But I think this CCL final proved once again that Monterrey are the team with the most potential. When Monterrey are at their best, I don't think there's another team in the league that can touch them.
Yeah.
It's just going to be a question now looking forward to the Liga. Are Monterrey able to put a run together like they did, like they put together in the CCL, but like they did in the middle of the season when they destroyed Cruz Azul in that semifinal in the CCL, when they win a couple of important Liga MX games? They beat Toluca, who are up there still, although they're on a terrible run, when they beat Tigres in the Clásico Regio. So if Monterrey can put that together again in the Liga, I don't think there's another team that can compete with them. It's just a question of whether or not they're able to do that.
Leon beat them.
I mean, there's a lot of
but that's when they're on their bad run. That's when they're on their bad run, and also when they're rotating players preparing for this final.
It's true
as well. So
I mean, there's a lot of parity in Liga MX, right? I
mean, Leon have had their down. Leon haven't been great either this season. Every team below America and America now are having
been crappy.
Yeah, even optimistic America fans aren't really that
confident. Right. Yeah. I think a lot of that was even as they were stringing the results together. I think the style of play was always a question, and also you were looking Santiago Solari in the Liga last year. Great regular season last year, and you go out in the Liga. So I think there's always that question of, okay, what happens now? towards, also considering that America's schedule was a little bit, it was easier at the beginning. It was always going to get harder at the end. So let's see how he handles now the CCL final. Let's see what happens now in the Liga. And so take last season's Liga, now the CCL final. He's lost in both of those instances. I think now there's a lot of pressure to really turn it on and put it together in the Liga for America. There always is, but I think now for Solari particularly,
nobody's been happy with their team this season.
Maybe Atlas. Before
Atlas fans are probably like there.
I think if you had said to an Atlas fan at the beginning of the season, you're going to be going into the certainly, okay, if you had said this to an Atlas fan at the beginning of the season, you're going to go into the last match of the season against the Querétaro side that if I believe I'm right on this, hasn't won away since February 2020. So if you can beat that Querétaro side at home, you finish second place in the table. I think any Atlas fan would have bit your hand off.
But then you would all say, but by the way, you just lost to Tijuana. They're the worst.
But second place is second place.
Yeah. True.
Second place is second place. 29 points is still a great. 29 points would potentially get you a top 4 spot, anyways.
Oh yeah.
Even in a less mediocre season, so to speak, but it will, get you second place.
Tijuana's on it. Wasn't Atlas the team that just lost to Tijuana? I said at the beginning of the season, watch out because Atlas is going to be the dark horse. Just because
I think once again it's an example of how much parity is in Liga MX. It's interesting to look at the top 7 sides right now in Liga MX. Only 2 of them won over the weekend. That was Tigres and that was Cruz Azul. I think the championship it's once again up for grabs, and I'm incredibly excited.
Tigres sneaking in there, Cesar.
Yeah. No, I'm not saying they're the title. I would usually say that they're the title. I mean, that's what I've been saying like season in season out. But like, no, I'm not saying that this season. I'm not saying this season.
We might sneak in this.
Not this season, but that'd be pretty funny if they actually end up winning it.
So who's your favorite, if not Tigres?
You know what?
This is where Leon thinks in the mediocre seasons. This is where Leon wins when there's not like a clear winner, dude.
I'm still gonna stick. I'm still gonna stick with America. I know that's the easy answer. I'm still fairly impressed with how Solari can grind out some of those results. I think it was an incredibly tough week to balance, and I think in any time that America loses consecutive matches, it's the end of the world. Everybody's freaking out. Everybody's questioning everything. But I don't know. I think Solari has done a very impressive job in Liga MX so far. My assumption is he's going to learn from his mistakes from the last Liga. And I don't know if I had to pick someone, I would say America, but I'm not saying that with a lot of confidence because I think right now it's still entirely
tough
for grabs. It's really, really tough. Yeah.
It is.
I'll go Cruz Azul.
I agree.
Oh, okay.
I agree with you.
Okay.
I'll go Cruz Azul. If not Leon, but we'll see. All right. Well, Cesar, and we definitely went over an hour. Saying hi to everybody that was on. Z, Mr. Cowboy, that I won't put your name because it's kind of offensive in the beginning of it. Vit, Kai, Bill, all of you guys that are on, thank you so much. Like I said, next week we'll have a great preview for the Mexico-US match. I said we're going to have Grant Wall and also Martin del Palacio. We'll be talking history of Mexico and US. We'll be talking lineups. We'll be talking, I got to ask Grant what he likes about the US. I got to ask Martin what he likes about Mexico. And it's going to be a great conversation. So stay tuned for it. I believe it's going to be 11 a.m. Pacific. So you can have all day to watch it. It'll be on YouTube. It'll be live. You can come with your
Wait a second. You told me it's 2 p.m. Pacific time. What's going on here?
Oh, sorry. No. It's 11 a.m. It was 2 p.m. Eastern time.
Okay.
My bad.
Just confirming. Just so we aren't confusing listeners either. Yeah.
We'll let you know. Be on the lookout for it. So we'll do that. And so important games coming up. Thank you all for listening. Owen, somebody was asking, hey, I don't know Owen. Where'd he come from? Owen's in Boston.
Yes, that's right.
Owen's in Boston. So that's where he came from. But Owen does a great job recapping Mexico games. And if you see his awesome recaps of players and plays, and he puts some pretty cool hip-hop music to it, he is the king of that for Kicks blog. So we'll see. All right, Cesar. Hasta la próxima. De Owen. See you later. Thank you again, Amy, for production of the show. Y we'll see you guys next week. Adios.